Okay, Zok the Heilige Gemara. We learned in the Mishnah about when you're buying, there's a certain understanding of what you're going to get, and it's not always perfect. So one roiva kav of psoilas, we'll see what that psoilas is contained of, is comprised of, for every saw. A roiva tinovis l'saw works out to 1 out of 24. 1 out of 24. It is fig. Thank you so much for the coffee. To any if it's figs, makabel of eser mutulo islamea, which would be 1%, right? 10 would be 10 mutulo islamea, 10 out of 100 is 10%. Might have show you if you bought a wine, shall full of wine. Makabel of eser koisas islamea, 10 barrels that has not such good wine in it for every 100. And when you're buying kankanim jugs, b'sharoin in the city of Sharoin, a kabel olav eser pizza islameya, 10 cracked or broken ones islameya. Now, of course, this is all based. It's a snapshot of what it was like in those days. Nowadays, of course, it's all based on what the norm is. When it says in the Mishnah, Reva Tinoifis, for every saw, you know what the Tinoifis that what we're referring to is? It's referring to kidneys, because they sometimes are harvested or kept together, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why we have an issue of kidneys, because they often are together, and if you have kidneys, you might have some wheat mixed in. Here it says when there's wheat, there's some kidneys mixed in, but they often get mixed together. Vafrufis, loy, but not like dirt, because there could be dirt mixed in to the grain. There could also be a foreign min, such as kidneys. So, Frek Gemara, are you saying that you only have to accept some kidneys, but zero regular dirt? What happens if your friend has some rocks mixed into his grain, which we're saying is normal, and you go and you separate out the stones? The halacha is noisin loy demei chitin. You have to pay your friend for chitin. Why do you have to pay your friend for chitin? Because now, when he sells any measure of chitin to his customer, he's going to have to give pure chitin, because you've taken the rocks out of it, and therefore you have to pay the chitin. So you might ask, I don't know what's the big deal. Put it right back in, right? What's the big deal? So that's the Rashbam's kasha. Zok the Rashbam, avalachzer ula arev, the second line from the top, any yochel, you can't do that. The hashta oisa avlu b'yadayim. Now you're purposely diluting what you're selling, that you're not allowed to do. Memela, people aren't makbid if it's there, but if it was taken out to put back in, that wouldn't be allowed. So by you taking out the stones, you're actually harming your friend. The whole discussion is it karmi, is it grama, is grami chayiv, but al kolpanim, there is a chayiv over here, because you're causing that your friend now has to sell pure chitin for the price of regular chitin. Okay, so you have arrived from here that the norm is that earth gets mixed in. So it's Shver and Katina who said that kidneys gets mixed in, but no afruris. So no, kidney is roiva. All of Katina is saying is you have to accept upon yourself a roiva of kidneys, but that doesn't mean you don't have to consider any mixture of rocks. Afruris, there's something to mixed in, but when the Mishnah says roiva 1/25th, 1/24th, it's not talking about afruris, it's talking about kidneys. So you look at this Mishnah, you look at this Gemara, and you think this is mamish not relevant nowadays. Sucked the Tshuvas Harajba. Somebody asked the Tshuvas Harajba, he hired a sofer to write him a Sefer Torah. And whatever happened, the sofer wasn't there, and they were checking it, and it had some mistakes. Is he entitled to his money back from the sofer? Zokt, the Tshuvas Harajba, a raya from our Mishnah that there's a certain amount of mistakes that even a regular sofer makes. No sofer is perfect. If it's beyond the pale, it's too many mistakes, then the sofer didn't do his job, and you don't have to pay him. But if there's only a few mistakes, and the mistakes that he made are mistakes that are commonly made by other soferim, it's considered like he delivered the product, because there's a default built into any type of sale agreement that there's a certain understanding that it's not going to be perfect. Humans aren't perfect. So can you imagine, only the Jewish Raza can still chew a shaila of safris to this Mishnah. Okay, so what you're telling me is you don't have to accept, the buyer doesn't have to accept that up to a roiva will be mixed in. What's that? What the natural is that people accept what things that are the norm. That's what I mean. They probably didn't have the computer in those days to check it. Right?
Maybe you would when you're talking.
Freak the Gemara. And these are all correctables. If he made a non-correctable mistake, it wouldn't be the case. If it's chitin, mekabel of roiva kitnius l'sa. Se'orim mekabel of roiva nishoves l'sa. Nishov is also a shear. Let's see what the Rishbam tells us about what these shiurim are. So kitani of kitina, aval afuris pachas miroba mashahu the makabel, aval roiva ba'afuris kiyesa miroba b'kidneys v'loy makabel. So if it, that's the territory. No, that's going back on before. It's going back on before. Okay, here it is. Chitin makabel lov, chitin moicheloi makabel lov lakeach roiva. Kidneys urche legadal chitin v'nishovis b'sarim. Oh, so I'm sorry, it's not a shear. It's a different thing that was mixed in. So therefore, Zokta Brisa, your makabel of roiva kidneys l'sa, so'irim makabel of roiva nishovis l'sa, which is some other thing that gets mixed into so'irim, straw. Adoshim legumes makabel of roiva afruris l'sa. So fighting Gemara, my love, who adin lechitin u'l'sa'irim. Just like by adoshim, you assume that there's going to be a roiva of a fruish mixed into it. So too by chitin and soirim, you should be able to assume that a roiva or a fruish is mixed into it. So it's shver weiter on Raktina, who says that it's not a full roiva that you have to accept when it comes to a fruish. But the more shiny adoshim, no, there's a difference between adoshim and soirim and chitin. Why? The me'akar akralu. Adoshim, the way you harvest them is you pull them out of the ground on a carrot. So naturally, it's going to be earth on them. But chitim and tzarim, you don't pull out of the ground. So therefore, it's not acceptable that there should be up to a roiv of a fruis, a little bit, but not a lot. By adoshim, since they pull them out of the ground, they don't get rinsed off and thoroughly cleansed. So it's expected that there's going to be some earth on them. At the time of this, the adoshim the me'akar akralu. So you're telling me only adoshim has earth because you're pulling them out of the ground. So then maybe we should bring a raya in the other direction. Tivshat mina that chitu sa'ari dafruris loy mekabel. So now we should be able to bring a raya that bachitin and sa'arin you're not mekabel anything at all. Zok to Rashbam elatayim aklaimer kiven do amarta the miyakar akralahu. Since you tell me dafka by legumes where you pull it out of the ground. That's why it's likely that there'll be a lot more afurus in adoshim than there would be in chitim and sa'irim. Imkein come to chayis davka nokat ba'adoshim roiv afurus. When the Brisa says a roiv of afurus by adoshim, it's very specific. Mishum d'shchichi behu, because that's the typical to find earth in adoshim. Avachidi sa'iri ein loimer roiv afurus. You wouldn't say roiv afurus. The lo shchich kolkach, because they're not being pulled out of the ground. So, let's turn around and go the other way. Let's bring a raya to you. You said that even by chitnim sarim, you accept some afurish, just not a roiva, a little bit less. The misa if in fact chitin sari, you do have to accept a roiva of afurish. Listening roiva afurish bechitin, and now mina kolchkin badosh. the Brisa should have said a roiva fruit by chitin. If by chitin you have to accept a roiva, surely by adoshim you have to. So now the Gemara wants to say maybe you should have a raya from this Brisa to what we said in the name of Rav Katina. Zok to Gemara. No, you don't have a raya. The Sol Kedat Chamina. Just want to make sure I didn't skip over here. I'm sorry. So then I lost the place over here. Really, even Chitin Masai is Makabal Furus. Why didn't the Brisa say it by Chitin, which is a bigger Chiddush? Because Adashim is Trichele. Fakert. There's a Chiddush by Adashim Gufa. The Sol Kedat Chamina keeping the Makar Akri Lahu Yosy Merev Nami Lakabel. You, if it would only said by Chitin, I would have thought, oh, by Chitin you gotta accept a Raiv of a Furus. So by Adoshim, you probably have to accept even more than the Raiv of a Furus, because they're much more dug out of the ground. Kamash Milan, not. So you don't have a raya to Rav Katina, nor do you have a raya against it. Rav Huna, in Bala Napois, Minapes Kulai. What if you're the buyer and you're looking at it, and you know what? To me, it looks like there's more than a Raiv of Adoshim over here. I wanna check it out. I want to sift it. And he finds that there is a roiva, well, then you know what? He has a right to take out all of the psoilos. So normally up to a roiva, someone accepts. That's before he checks. But if he feels the need to check, then he's allowed to take every little bit of psoilos out. Amr lei dina. There are those who say that it's me'ikar din that way. But Amr la knasa, and there are those who say it's a knas. Amr Ladina. If you hold it's a din that it's ikra din, it's because man the yoyev zuzi a perish or period. Really, you don't want any psoilus in it at all. If I'm buying a shear of chitin, I want chitin. I don't want rocks. I don't want kidneys. I want chitin. I want exactly what I paid for. But v'roiva leitarich energy. I'm not going to bother. I'll be moichel. I'll be mevater. Up to a roiva, for a roiva or less, I'm not going to make myself crazy to start sifting. But Yosy roiva. Once there's more mixed in, now I am going to be matriach. Tarach inish. Even the tarach b'kula. Once I'm sifting the whole thing out. So therefore, it explains why my ikra din, I never accepted it. Sometimes I'm moichel, I'm not moichel. I don't accept it. But I'm not willing to go through the tirch of sifting everything, but once it triggers a sifting, I'm going to want pure wheat. There are those who say, no, Rav Huna's halacha is knas. And that is, roiva shchiach, yoser lo shchiach. Roiva is shchiach, yoser is not. So if, in fact, there's more than a roiva mixed in, this isn't just happenstance, this is Sabbath. The ilahu the arif. This moicher must be a crook, and he must have bedafkin mixed in psoilas, so that his wheat content will be lower. That deserves to be sanctioned. The chivin the arif and the balti mixed it in on purpose. Kantsu rabbanan b'chu. Now, you're trying to steal? Now we're going to make sure there's nothing in it at all. Let's see the Rashbam. V'amri law knasa. There are those who say it's a knas. Really, a person is not makbid, he's mochel everything. V'aperi delav shapiri mikol v'koil yoyiv loikeach zuzi. And even though it's not a perfect wheat, there's a mixed into it, a person understands that. Betzim is mochel. Sheyedehu the derech tfua lias but hinoifus. Everyone knows that tfua doesn't come perfectly clean. U'mochel, and everyone's mochel. Hilchach roiv loikanis doshchiach. Up to a roiv, we're not going to cancel the guy because that's the norm. But lekala meimar der ruve arav yadayim. He didn't do, the mochel didn't do anything wrong. And he's not mechuyev to purify it more because that is what normal people buy. Although yatzim roiva, lo shchich b'tfua. That's not going to occur naturally. The ikala meimar the iu amoicher hu the arav yadayim. The mochel must have purposely mixed in psoilus. The chivin the arav kansu rabbanan b'kulei. Now you're going to have to take everything out. The ikala meimar kulei arav, because we're choshed that maybe it was squeaky clean wheat and all of the psoilus he placed in there. What's the nafkamina if it's din or if it's a knas? The nafkamina, the adina beideloi arav. Afilu tzvei meroiva have a mechila v'kanalokeh. The nafkamina is, what if we know for sure he didn't mix it in? Punk, this was a batch, it was a dirty batch. He didn't mix in anything. If it's al knas, a knas wouldn't be appropriate over here because he didn't mix it in. But if it's din, then we say a person's not makbid to take anything. And once it was triggered that he's going to check, he can check everything, but the trigger doesn't have to be because of the wrongdoing of the moicher. No matter what, if the lekech decides to check, he has a right to check everything. Witnesses. Zog the Gemara weiter. Meisvei. Kol so sheyesh baroiva mimin acher yemai. Now, this is not speaking about mekach memker. It's speaking about klayim. Now, the halach is by klayis royim. If there's a certain amount mixed in, it's going to be a problem. If there's less, it's not a problem. The Rashbam learns as follows. The Rashbam says, Kol so tvua sheyesh baroiva hakav mimin acher. So there's a soft tvua that has 1/24 of some other min. Yemai. You need to reduce the amount of foreign min that's there. The loy lahava roiva, so it shouldn't be a roiva, it should be less than a roiva. The acharachi is re'enu. So if you plant and there's less than 1/24 of a different min, it wouldn't be considered klayim. That's what the Rashbam says. Tosfos doesn't like it because anyway you wouldn't be able to mix in. It's only a shalav b'diavad. But Rashi's problem, if it was already planted that way, it would be already be also renal klayim. So Tosfos says we're not talking about klay hakam, we're talking about klay zroyim. Even though it's also to do, it doesn't become also anyway. Anyway, but that is the law. Kol so sheyesh b'roiv b'minacher. If you have your soft seeds and there's a roiv of minacher, you might take them out. You don't take them all out. Just reduce the ratio. It should be less than a roiv. Zog to Gemara. Svarua. At first glance, we're thinking that let's compare klayim to mekach memker. The roiv of the klayim is kiyoser miroiva dehacha. So let's say let's say we can compare the two. Now by klayim we say a roiva is already too much, right? By mekach memkar we said a roiva is fine. Yosim roiva is too much, right? So let's say that besides that difference, they're the same. So we would treat a yosim roiva, which is too much by mekach memkar, the same way we would treat a roiva by klayim. The katani yamayit. You would think once you know there's klayim here, there's too much klayim, so it's all klayim. But yet you don't take it all out. You only have to be mamayit. Even though you know for sure you're leaving stuff in. You're leaving in klayim. So if that's what you say by klayim, which is a davar chamor to davar isha v'heter, kol shekain by mekach memkar, you should say that it's enough just to reduce the ratio. So it's shver on. Now, if it's a knas, then it's not a kasha. But if it's minadin, you have a problem because if you say that every bit counts, lagabe mekach memkar, why doesn't every bit count lagabe klayim? And once you have a roiva, you should have to get rid of it all.
Oh,
it depends. It depends on which one of the Rishonim you learn. So if you look at the Rashbam, you're learning like Tosfos. So if you look at the first bottom line on Tosfos, the parach nami alish the dina, you're asking them both. But if you look at the Rashbam will tell you that this is only a kasha if not on the one that it's knas, and I'll show you the Rashbam inside. So I'm happy that you brought that up. So here's where the Rashbam says it.
I thought both Shelton were just coming to explain Ravuna, the kasha of Ravuna.
The Rashbam says from the Fairs, 1 second. 1 second. What are we up to over here? Somewhere right in the Rashbam. So I wasn't making it up. The Rashbam actually it's a little bit confusing because in one place he says it's only a kasha. Oh, here it is. Meisvei alish nakama do amri lei dina kaparch v'lo yaknos. You see right at the beginning of the kasha? Meisvei. It's halfway down in the wide lines. Meisvei alish nakama do amri lei dina kaparch v'lo yaknos. So it's unfortunately Rashbam.
Why would you think? So let's work it out.
Because if it's a knas means only if you did something wrong, you mixed it in. By klayim, you didn't mix anything in. Why are you guilty of a knas? What did you do wrong? That's what the issue is. Tosfos is holding him shot. That's why he holds puvik here. But But what's interesting enough is if you look at the Rishbam and you first the Kasha, which I was confused with. So if you look at 5 lines from the bottom of the Rishbam, towards the end of the line, he says, the Kasha Rafuna, the Amr Menapes Kulai. So here, at the beginning of the Meisvei, when the Rishbam introduces it, the Rishbam says it's only on the Lishna Kama that it's Dina Kapara. But when the Rishbam fears the Kasha, the Rishbam says, the Kasha Rafuna, the Amr Menapes Kulai. The Kasha Rafuna, according to the time of Dina, right? But you were making a good point. It says Shver Rafuna, the Kasha Rafuna. The Rishbam is only Shver Rafuna if it's a Din Naknas. Okay, Gavalti. So Zog to Gemara, Zakmaloi, Roiva the Klaim, Ki Roiva the Hachadam. Roiva of Klaim is just like Roiva of here. And therefore, by Roiva of Mekach Memkar, we're saying someone's Moichel. As the Rishbam says, Roiva the Hachadami, his name between them. Sai by Mekach Memkar, we say it's bottle, and Sai by Klaim, we say it's bottle. The Hilchach die b'miyut. Therefore, it's enough if you just reduce it by Klaim. Why? The afilu miyut loy have it tzarich. Really, you should not even reduce the amount of Klaim there. The habotel, we're saying it's botel. El chumra ba'almihi kedem afarish vazal. It's merely a chumra. Avol yoysim arrive the Klaim, maybe emalach shimbol lemayit memayit eskulai. So therefore, what does the Rashbam say? By Roiva, you're Mamayit. You know why by Roiva, you're Mamayit? You don't have to take it all away? Because by Roiva, you didn't hit the threshold yet. It's below the threshold. It's a threshold that even by Mekach Memkar, it doesn't count. That's why by a Roiva, you're Mamayit. That's a Chumrah. But if it was more than a Roiva, then just like by Mekach Memkar, you got to take it all out. So too by Klaim, you'd have to take it all out. I don't understand. Why are we more machmer by Klaim than we are by Mekach Memkar? By Mekach Memkar, you don't have to do anything if it's less than if it's a roiva or less. Only if it's over a roiva. So why by Klaim are we machmer even by a roiva to be b'mayit? So because it's Isser v'heter, it's a davar achomer, and therefore even though we didn't hit the threshold of Isser, we're saying at least be b'mayit. Once you want to be machmer ihachi, once you're talking about chumah of Klaim. Yachi Ema Sefer. Let's look at the Sefer. Rabbi Yosy Omer Yovar. What you should do is you should take it all out. I Amrit Bishlama Ki Yoser Miroiva Tinoifas Tami. If you're going to say by Klaim the Hakpad is already at a Roiva, you don't have to wait till Yoser Miroiva. Meaning by Ikerdin you got a problem. Then Bahakam mythically. This is how we would be able to explain the Machlokes of the Tanakama who says you might. Rabbi Yosy who says you got to take it all out by Klaim is as follows. We don't count a heter atu iser. Therefore, whatever is more than the roiva, that's what you have to take away. But you don't have to take away what's allowed to be there. Rabbi Yosy sover kansina, and Rabbi Yosy holds no. Once you take away the iser, you take away everything. If you're going to learn that by kalayim gufa, really a roiva is not a problem. My ikardin. It's only Yoser Miroiva that's a problem, and it's only an extra chumrah that even by a roiva, which be'etem is mutter, should be mamayit. Amayop. Why in the world would Rabbi Yosy hold that you have to take it all out? The only reason why you're being mamayit is a chumrah. There's no issue here at all because we're less than the threshold. So why would Rabbi Yosy hold you got to take everything out? There's no mokum to be canceling. There's nothing wrong that was done over here. Look, we know you have some level of climb here. You're taking some out and leaving some there. That mamish looks like you're leaving climb there on purpose. So therefore, once we're giving you a chumrah that you have to be mamayit, even though me'ikra din is not climb, to let you leave some in when you're actually in the middle of taking some out, that mamish doesn't look bad. As the Rashbam says, climb. It almost looks it almost looks like he's doing this knowingly and willingly. The ikvar nizru bekarka ubir ktas v'shayir ktas, and if they're already planted, then nira kemekayim bekarka klayim. It would look like you're actually knowingly leaving klayim in the karka. Okay. Toshma. Shnayim shevkidu eitzolecha. Two people, this is a famous case, we've looked at many times. Two people left a package of money by a single shomer. Zemona, one person left him a mana, v'zem masayim. And we don't know who left him the mana and who left him the masayim. Zaymer masayim shuli. When the two people come to pick up their money, each one claims that I gave you the masayim. V'zaymer masayim shuli. So one of them is clearly lying. Zokti Tanakama. The halacha is a mana for sure is returnable to each of these two guys. The suffix is the extra mana who belongs to, so that you leave achiyov eliyah. So what do you see from here? Zok to Gemara, Shnaim Shevkidu. Here's Dr. Rishbam. It is a lishna the knasa part. We're asking a lishna the knasa, and Shemami no like and here you see that even though one of them is surely lying, you're not counting the extra because of the you're not counting the first mana because of the second mana. Why? Just because you went over would Rabbanon cancel you that you have to take out all of the psoilas? So you have a raya from the Chachamim. You have a raya from the Chachamim that you don't have this concept of knas. You can't compare the two cases. Hasam vadi mana lamar umana lamar. In the case of the two people who brought money to the shomer, it's 100% clear that one mana belongs to each of the two people. The whole discussion, the whole dispute, the whole suffix is on the Yosy mana. But hacha, when you're talking about someone selling dirt mixed in with the wheat, hacha mi yemar the lav kulei arabiar. There's a possibility that the meicher didn't mix it all in. So here there's a reason, once we know he mixed in, we'll be choshesh and count him because maybe he mixed it all in. But in that case, the most someone is stealing is a mana. The first mana belongs to them. So let's bring a raya to the opposite direction, to Rafuna from the Seifa. Rabbi Yosy in chain, ma hifsed Ramai. Rabbi Yosy says, what type of incentive are you giving the Ramai to admit? If you withhold all the money, then I'll say, you know what, I might as well admit I'm the Ramai, at least I'll get my money back. But if I'm getting my money, so I don't care if the other money is I got whatever I wanted back anyway. So you have a raya for carrot. You have a raya that you do make this knas. No, you don't have a raya either way. You don't have a raya that you do make this knas either. Why? There we know for sure there's a crook here. Here it's not so bad. We're chayshid he might have mixed in more, but we don't know for sure. It's possible that it just happens to be there was more dirt there. So over here, there's a svart to say there's more of a reason to cancel than there, and there's a svart to say there's less of a reason to cancel. So you can't bring a raya in either direction. Tashma, star sheyesh by ribbis. There's a star written that has ribbis in it. So Yanko lent Beryl $100, and Beryl writes in the star, I'm going to pay you back $110. So that's an isser done. Therefore, so you cancel the malva. You can't be going by anything different of mayor. And Tosfos has a whole discussion. Are they passeling the star, or are they canceling the chayv? In other words, let's say I have Adam that prove that you owe me the money. Do you say that the Baal star had ribbis in it, so I don't have a star, but if I have Adam, I have a right, you still have to pay? Or do you say there's no chiv to pay at all? That's a discussion. Different of mayor. So once again, you see the you see you cancel him even on something that he didn't do wrong. So you should have a raya over here that you cancel. There, the moment they wrote the star, they did an avera. They were not allowed to write the star. Here we don't know for sure that he did an avera at all. There's a whole discussion here in Tosfos. I don't understand. How could you ever collect with the star, even the Karen? There's also a shalach, can you collect the Karen? How could you collect anything if the Adam signed on this star? So then the Adam they've proven themselves to be possible Adam. They're doing an Avera. They're signing on a star that's an Isser Ribis. But we want to learn everybody's liable over here. So Tosfos says, I'm sorry? Well, Tosfos says, Lamaskana, it doesn't. but at first he held that there was. If we look at Tosfos says. So look. I mean, at what point is it? Maybe it's a moment's crime. I don't know. Let's look at the bottom Tosfos. The Chacham Raim goy is a Karen Mashma should go about Pia Star. But Filu Mishabdi. The Koshalari. How could the Chacham say that you could not even the Karen? The Lama Hashtar Kosher keeping Sha'edim Oivrin al Lois Simon. Kid Tanan Bezon Neshko Oivrin the Israelibis. The Algav the Einan Ede Chamos She'ein Marvichin Klum. Even though by signing on the star they're not making money on the deal. Hakaimelon Kabaye. The Avarian Oichol Nevelis Lachel Puzzle. Abaye holds even if you take off your tefillin early, like the Mashiach says, you can't be an aid. So Tosfos has a discussion about it. So Tosfos at the end says via Shloimer, the Loisha Simon Inchi is b'malva v'loiva v'arev mashmalu v'loyedim. Loisha Simon maybe he's not referring to the Edim. Or maybe they signed the star because there was a gun to their head. So there's reasons why the Edim wouldn't be possible by having signed such a star. Okay, so more weiter. Right. It doesn't list those of. So I'm not sure how that works. I guess we're going to get some hedge into them. We'll see. Zok to Gemara, Hachi Ashta, Hasom, Mishas Ksivu David, Shuma, Hakam Yamadi River. Tashma, me safe. So let's bring another right for the safer, the opposite direction. The Chamamim, Goybes Hakaren, the Ina Goybes Haribis. So you see, you don't count it. Zok to Gemara, Hachi Ashta, Hasom, Vadai, Karno Deter. There, clearly, the Karen is legit. I lent him the money, I'm entitled to get it back. But Hacha Mi Yemar, the Kule Rubi Or. In our case, in a way, from a certain perspective, maybe he stole everything by mixing it all in, and therefore we count him on everything. Tashma, the Tani Rabban by Rav Nachman, lo yesa muter es a moiser belvadu machzer, el a machzer loy es kol haravon. You don't only give him back the moiser, you give him back everyone that arrives. Zok to Rashbam. What are we referring to? Tashma, the Tani Rabban, l'kamon beperk beiskur. If someone says, I'm selling you a beiskur offer, if he tells you, if the deal was I'm selling you exactly a base core and we're going to measure it, so there the halacha is I'm not entitled to any more than the base core because it's exactly. But the Amar Loi, Hein Chaser, Hein Yeser, I'm selling you around the base core. It might be a little bit more, a little bit less. You know, I'm selling you this piece of land. I'm not saying it's a base core. It's around the base core, but it's not exactly a base core. So then I feel pichas roy velasa, a haizav roy velasa higir. Even if there's a little bit more or a little bit less, it will be good. But even that has thresholds. Even that has thresholds up to a roiva l'sa. So yes, if it's actually more property than that amount, which would hurt the moicher, or much less property, which will hurt the lekech, yasech cheshbin v'yachserloi. You have to do a reconciliation. If there's more land, then the chech has to pay more. If there's less land, then the moicher has to charge less. Zog to Gemara, even the ikamoisim or since there's more than the roiv, it crossed the threshold. The Tani Ravin b'Gemara, and Ravin in the Gemara taught us, loy esa moisel shoroiv l'chalsohu machzor lebadoi. You don't just refund what was more than a roiva offside. Ela kol haravon. Once you go over the threshold, now you gotta refund all the money for anything that was less than a roiva, than the full amount or more. Kol lamed revoim shall base skur umoish reisei makom machzer. Everything goes back. The heicha the ball l'shalom. Once you gotta pay already, mishalom askuloi, you gotta pay everything. Oy bazoi. Let's compare that to our case. Ilnami in our case, heicha the ball not boys not beskuloi. It makes perfect sense. Just like over there, once you hit the threshold, everything's got to go back. So to over here, once you hit the threshold of the amount of soil is allowed to be built, is allowed to be mixed in, you take it all out. Rafuna, and it'll be a raya to Rafuna. And again, Zokter Shbam, Balish Nakama the Amiloi Dina Kamisai. The raya is if you hold it to Mikra Din, because then the Hach of Awesome Chataim. It's not you can make a distinction there, he didn't do anything wrong, it was an honest mistake. But if it's in din, that really a makbid on everything, then it makes perfect sense that the same way there you got to give everything back. Here you have to give everything back. The roiva machalunish, Now I'm going to do the exact measurement, and I want to do a complete reconciliation. So Tashma, Ravin Bar Nachman, Loy Esa Moisha Bilvatu Master or Master Loy is color of Kulam, Alma Heicha de Boy, Ahadure, once you got to give anything back, Kulay Mahader. So come on, no, you don't have a raya. Haki Ashta. Hasam, Hain Chaser, Hain Yasir. He said, if it's a little more or a little less, I'm including it. Mi Revia Loy Chashuv, Mi Revia Loy Chashuv, Yosy Revia Chashuv. Less than the Revia, I don't care much. But if it's more than the Revia, that I'm not with. And therefore, even the Chazile Listarufe, Petitious Kabin, since all these little extra pieces can add, and we could put a big piece of property together with these small little pieces, so therefore, and every little bit is chashuv, because every little bit can be combined to a bigger piece of property. Mashenkin over here, maybe if it's more than the revius, he's only going to be makbid to get back the thing that's excess past the riva, but up to a riva he'll still be moil. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll be mamshich tomorrow.